Raincoat tent is one of the elements of military equipment legendary for the Soviet Army. The first similarities of a cape in the Russian Army appeared during the time of Peter the Great. They looked like ordinary capes tied in front. In 1882, an individual tent was included as an obligatory element in the marching equipment of a soldier of the Russian Imperial Army. Going on a campaign, the soldiers carried light gray bundles behind their backs, tied with belts to their overcoat rolls. They were mini tents. It came with wooden pegs and a stand. The individual tent of a soldier of the Russian Imperial Army was a canvas with holes for installation and was used only as a tent. However, the soldiers themselves immediately realized that the tent could also be used as a raincoat. They themselves began to adapt the tent so that it was convenient to use as a raincoat. The command quickly drew attention to the soldiers' initiative, and in 1910 the individual tent was modernized. The raincoat tent gained real popularity already in Soviet times. In 1936, the raincoat was introduced as a uniform for privates and officers in the rifle units of the Red Army. It is worth noting that during the development of raincoat tents, various samples of raincoat tents from other countries were analyzed, such as Germany, Italy, Sweden, etc. Initially, the products were made in a uniform green protective color. Only since 1942, using the experience of the Germans, the Soviet industry has mastered the production of raincoats with a double-sided camouflage pattern. The Soviet raincoat tent is a tarpaulin canvas measuring 180 x 180 centimeters, weighing 1.4 kilograms. Two pieces of uprights 37 centimeters long. Wooden sticks are 25 centimeters long. Metal stick 18 centimeters long. Rope 4.5 meters long. The total weight is 1.75 kilograms. Leather eyelets are sewn in the corners, designed to stretch the cape on stakes or on rope extensions. Also on the tarpaulin, there are wooden buttons and a slot for one hand. In treeless areas, soldiers were given a complete set, and in wooded areas, only canvas and rope without racks and sticks, since they can be made from improvised means. During the Great Patriotic War, raincoats helped the units of the Red Army to operate in any geographical and climatic conditions. In the mountains, steppes, on a snowy plain, weapons were cleaned on raincoats. They were slept on, using them both as bedding and as a blanket. Therefore, the Red Army soldiers and commanders immediately fell in love with the new item in their uniforms. From raincoats, stretchers were made to carry wounded soldiers. They covered open trenches, covered the entrances to dugouts. Numerous examples are known of how Soviet soldiers crossed water barriers on raincoat tents. For this, raincoats were stuffed with straw or hay. It turned out to be a kind of mattress on which a soldier could well swim across a small river or pond. They were also used for camouflage. At night, under the tarpaulin, the light of a flashlight or the flame of a match and cigarette is not visible, which can betray the presence of a person to an enemy observer. Therefore, under a raincoat tent, for example, it was possible to highlight a map during the night time and check the area when performing a combat mission. If you can build a shelter for one person for a raincoat, then from several raincoats you can assemble a tent that can accommodate several people. If you use it as a canopy, then even from one raincoat tent you can make a shelter for 4 people. Although the tarpaulin of the raincoat does protect from water, over time, water still begins to seep in conditions of prolonged rain. This is one of the main cons of raincoat tents. In order to enhance protection from rain, shoulder pads were sewn on the shoulders of the fighter. Second layer of fabric sewn on to increase water resistance on the shoulder. It was also recommended in case of very heavy rain. Don't fit tight to the body on the shoulders in that case. It is better protected from rain. It is worth noting that in the winter season, the fighters did not have tents. They had to be handed over for storage in a warehouse. In winter, they can only protect from the wind and are not needed if you have warm clothes. Interestingly, the Wehrmacht also used its own version of the Zeltbahn 31 raincoat, which was adopted in 1931, even before Adolf Hitler came to power. This model replaced the square gray cape used since 1893. The German raincoat tent was not square, but triangular. In addition, it was camouflaged. In North Africa, there were also samples of special tropical camouflage, greenish yellow or light beige. Like the Soviet, the German raincoat tent could be used as a blanket or bedding, and 2 could be used to make a bigger tent to protect from rain. 4 items connected together made it possible to create a pyramidal 4-person tent. It was possible to make 8-seat and 16-seat tents. By the way, in the photos of German soldiers, I noticed that a helmet is often installed on the top of the tent. So how do you think they do this? Write your opinion in the comments. And yet, although the Soviet raincoat was inferior to the German one in a number of parameters, it was still loved by Soviet soldiers. The raincoat tent became one of the symbols of the Soviet Army. On many monuments, in many paintings depicting the Great Patriotic War, our infantrymen are dressed in the usual raincoats. So let's see how to put on a raincoat tent. To protect the raincoat tent from dragging along the ground through walking, it is fastened by means of an eyelet to a wooden peg located almost in the center of the cloth. So now we take a stroke and tighten it, covering our shoulders. This triangle should be inside. After that, tie a knot. Now we create a hood and fix it around the face with movable tape, and carefully pull the strap and adopt the hood from both sides. This angle we put inside under the hood.